Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Casting Calls. I'm here with Mark Mullen, who is a longtime prolific casting director in the Southeast. And now he's also bicoastal. He's in California. And he's cast thousands upon thousands of commercials, but he's also done theatrical casting, which is not something that everybody that does commercials can say. So we want to talk to Mark today. Mark, welcome.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
So tell me, first of all, what's it like being out in Los Angeles and doing casting out in LA and out in Orlando at the same time?
It was an eye-opener for me because it's so much easier here. And it's always been, funny because I've often said to clients, it's like, if we can get it here, we can get, meaning Florida, if we can get it in Florida, we can get it anywhere, and not trying to brag, but just like, look, we can get this for you. Just get out of our way and let us do it. And lo and behold, that line was really borne out to be true, because I have to say, and I hate to compare because it's different, but obviously, but people come in, they hit their mark, and before I can turn around to say you can put your things there and you can step up, they're already there. And they slate and they go into a take, and when you say, would you like to try it a different way, they're stunned and they're frozen for a minute. It's like, wait, you're gonna give me a second take? And then they go, what's your name? And they start like inquiring, like, who are you? And then when I say I'm the guy on the on the sign, it's like, wait, you're running the session? So it's like really strange out here, but it's what I know, and it's how I've always done it. So I can look like a hero by just doing business as usual.
Yeah.
But it is nice because they are prepared and they're on it. And it's such a luxury. And, by the time I'm about to walk them out the door, they're already out the door helping the other person come in. So I could literally sit down and do nothing other than point and then read opposite them. Yeah.
Do you think that's because people move out to LA with the intention often of getting into this industry? This is their pursuit, versus, let's say, in Florida, where people often fit it into lives they already have. I mean, there's certainly a lot of us that make our living, obviously, in the Southeast full-time in this business in some way, shape, or form. But there's also a lot of people that have to have other jobs to be able to make the income. And so they've maybe come to it later. Their real estate is what they do 90% of the time, and acting is only 10% of the time. Yeah,
I do find it's exactly that. And I also find that, out here, if your agent gets wind of the fact that you weren't prepared, they drop you because there's 100 more like you waiting.
Yes.
And they just, they just say goodbye to you, and then they speed down, they dial the next person that's been, knocking on their door for the last 6 months. Just to get representation.
There's always someone waiting.
If you drop the ball out here, you're gone. You get, you lose your agent and you have to beg for a lesser agent. And so it's a pecking order, and it's a ladder that they're climbing, and they don't want to miss a rung. So that's a big deal. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say that the talent quality is drastically different. I've often, been the last one to do an edit where in Florida, where they've cast in LA, New York, Chicago. So I get to see who the competition is. We always hold our own. We always hold our own. The only time I've ever seen a segment that maybe doesn't is if you're asking kids to be like little Woody Allens. I hate to use him as a reference these days, but if you're looking for somebody to be Larry David-like, let's say, better example.
Better reference.
Kids in New York that ride a subway, or used to ride a subway to school, just have an old soul. And our kids are real kids in Florida. And then out here, the kids are just like little supermodel surfers that are, mostly, just pretty people.
Little perfect kids.
But we have the greatest kids, I think. When it comes to the youth market, we have the real deal. And it's a melting pot in Florida. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that. And I think that's important, because I say this all the time, and I don't know if people believe me or not, but talent is talent. That applies in any market. And also professionalism is professionalism. And so if you know those two things, if you've got those two things working for you, then you can compete in any market in the US. It's just a matter of getting to know the players there and getting entrenched in that market. But talent is talent. It transfers. And Florida definitely has a lot of talent. We have a very deep talent pool, and we will continue to have that forever, as long as we've got the theme parks, which are currently closed, but I'm certain are going to reopen.
Yeah, they will.
So you and I, in full disclosure, have been friends for a very long time, which is awesome. And I have known you primarily, obviously, as a commercial casting director in the last 15 years. However, you and you've brought me in and I've gotten the opportunity to learn from you on a ton of theatrical projects too. Which do you prefer, theatrical casting or commercial casting?
Commercials. Mm-hmm. Did you see how I didn't hesitate?
I know, I knew the answer too, but I didn't know they did.
I just like going at, full speed. Mm-hmm. Until it's over. And then when it's over, there's 3 or 4 other projects that are bleeding already into that. And I like to get in and just get it done. And then, if you encounter inflated egos, which we always do in this business, unlike a TV series, you're not stuck with them for 7 months, or a film, you're not stuck with them for 3 months or whatever. And in a commercial, it's like, I can grin and bear it because the check will come in and I'll move on. But I like that. The comparison's always been, a film is like a novel and a TV series is like a weekly magazine, and then a commercial is like a daily newspaper where you just run and gun. And I like that. So,
yeah, it's definitely a different feel, right?
Yeah. Now I would say that the casting directors I work with on film are almost always a real pleasure to work with. It can just be the pressure of producers and a lot of egos, and directors aren't always the easiest to work with. But when you get lucky, like with Patty Jenkins is the first example I think of, it is a pleasure, but it's just not the cards you're often dealt. I mean, I know that's a big machine on a TV series, and it's just a lot of egos, and that can sometimes just deplete my enthusiasm, which I know it does with actors too.
Sure.
When you get into a callback and you're just treated like a number, and they talk right over you and through you. It's like, you've said that before. We've lost a lot of that with the taping. It's a convenient thing, but we don't get that eye to eye. And you always said, and it's true, and I tell people this too, and I credit you, try to grab their eye when you come into the room and say, hi, how are you? You having a good day?
Make them see you as a human.
Yeah, read the room, but just saying that, they put the phone down because now there's a guilt. Oh my God, she saw me. She knows I'm not watching. I gotta watch her. I'm an ass, and so that thing kind of works with casting too. I'm kind of rambling, I know, but with the casting thing, I always tell people we are always auditioning as casting company as well, because they don't know if we know how to do this or how well we do this, because just like bad actors, there's bad casting directors, and they don't know what they're getting when they come to a second-tier market in Florida. But we always send them away surprised in the good way.
Pleasantly, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a lot of actors don't know this information. Who hires a commercial casting director? Who's the person that makes the phone call to you?
We get a call from a production company putting together a bid. And sometimes, with Disney and some of the bigger ones where they have their in-house, ad agency or their in-house agency types creatives, I'll get called by them. But my calls are almost always from, they are. In commercials, they're always from a producer, an independent producer hitching his or her wagon to a production company, or it's a bid person, a production bid person whose sole job is to get numbers and crunch them and look at dates and look at rates and try to talk about all that through. So yeah.
So you get to bid on the job, and then the person who has the best bid is the person that gets the job sometimes.
Yeah, and on a film, it's more relationships that are built. So you get a call from a casting director you've worked with often, and they'll continue working with you as long as you don't screw up.
Right. Or piss them off. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So a lot has changed in the commercial casting world, period, in casting in the last few years. In the commercial casting world in Orlando, now we have to be submitted by our agent through our casting network's profile. And then you, the casting director, you go in and decide who you want to see for that audition. What makes you decide to pick a certain actor over another? How do you choose?
Well, first and foremost, there's the known quantity of the actors that we've worked with over the years, and we just know they deliver and that they bring their own thing to, you know, elevate any project they're in. And they have range. And so I always like, and this is a little sidebar here, but I always like to bring in a Jim Coleman, who's, you know, like a 60-year-old African-American male from the Orlando market, you know, for the role of the, you know, the Caucasian female judge, you know, because a good actor is a good actor. So it's fun to bring in a little curve, and I don't ask permission. I just do it. And when they go, why was this guy in? It's like, well, did you like what he did? Yeah, he's awesome. It's like, well, that's why you saw it. But having said that, it's like, it's the history with somebody like you or like Jim Coleman and many others in the market where you have to get your A-list guys in. The other thing is, if it's on a film especially, and we're looking at 7 weeks of casting, that first week I'm auditioning, like I said, as much for the producer and the director as the actors are. So I kind of have to bring my usual suspects in so that when they click, and nowadays it is a click rather than a turn of a headshot, when they click, they want to see a full resume. And when they see credits, they realize, okay, this casting guy must know what he's doing. He's bringing us some tried and true people. But I can bring all the A-listers I want in that first week, and they're paying me for 7 weeks. So week 7, I'm seeing a couple people from like the smallest, most believable agent. It's like, oh my God, he called them. Why did he call them? Because sometimes there's 1 or 2 people that haven't got to the A-list agents yet. I'm sure Daniel Day-Lewis had a little agent when he first started, you know, and so I do kind of always want to make sure that we've turned over all the rocks and we found any options that could possibly be out there. So anyway, there's a known quantity, but I also like when we get in deeper into that 3rd, 4th, 5th week, and we can just start to kind of try people out and see who's there. And the system pretty much works out where the cream does rise. And so those people we find from, you know, Acme Talent Agent in Winter Haven, Florida, end up with an A-list agent, you know, after they book a couple things. And that's my dryer. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah,
I mean, one way. You know, the other way too is I love people, you know, if all things being equal, I love people who have a history, an interesting history. Somebody is like, you know, I was in Iraq, you know, during, you know, or whatever, and during Desert Storm, you know, it's like, there's a story. Or I used to be a bouncer, you know, when I worked up in, you know, in New York City. And you find that those people bring kind of an unspoken depth to their performances because it's so deep, their world experience, that there's just something you can't quite, you know, train. You just have it. It's, you know, it's a certain kind of essence that certain people have. And I like bringing those people in to see what they can do and just to see if they resonate with the director. When
you're going through these casting network submissions and you don't know the actor, for instance, how much of their profiles do you look at? Do you look at their headshots and their resume and things like that?
Yeah. So, you know, I look and I see who's been submitted, and presumably, not always, they're cleared, but you know, I presume that they're available, and I can just give them a little score, you know, and it's no different than a check. I'm not really scoring so much 1 through 5. That's what the scores are. I just give everybody a 5, and that sorts them over where I can look at them a little closer when it comes to scheduling. But I go with the usual suspects, and then I go back and I kind of do this with a little bit when somebody says, can you look at my, you know, my pictures when they're getting a new headshot? And it's like, okay, let me look at your proofs. And I just kind of let my eyes get lazy, and I stop on whatever the one that just jumps out at me, you know, and it's not a spoken thing. It's just something that just hits. And I kind of do that when I'm looking at casting networks, because it is laid out almost like a yearbook, you know, that you have these great color photos, which is interesting because some dude's going to pick a photo of himself in a tank top on the beach, which not smart, honestly. Not smart, you know, but I'll tell you, every now and then they're so cheesy or so bad, I've got to click on them. Right. But I tell you, when you click on them, you don't find what you don't, there's not a treasure waiting for you. Pretty much what you saw is what it is. But I just kind of like let my eyes relax, and I kind of go over the unknown quantity of people on there. And there's a couple people that jump out over all those long explanations of what we had on the phone meeting leading up to who this person is and the specs and the essence of the character. And I just kind of let my eyes go. And then when I see it, it's like I click. And then let's learn a little more about this person. Let's see what their hobbies are. I mean, of course, their resume, but also what do they do? And I'm always interested, you know, if I have somebody with an equal resume, an equal headshot, and I don't know them, but one guy juggles, rides a unicycle, and lived in, Guam for 5 years. And then the other person I was born and raised in Orlando, and that's pretty much it. You kind of got it. If you got one slot, it's like, I'm bringing the guy from Guam in,
Right.
because you kind of hope that informs somebody's performance.
That makes sense.
But,
now,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, who actually makes the decision? You and I know this, but I want everyone to know this. Who actually makes the decision for a commercial casting on who gets the role? They say, book this woman. Who does that usually?
It is a committee. When it gets into that, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So you have ad agency people that want to make sure that they don't lose their Coca-Cola client, and they really hit it right like Coca-Cola likes, exactly the type of people. Then you have a director who wants to make a film one day soon. And so he's trying to get the most David Lynch-like, odd type of people in. And I always smile. I get those with Disney too, where somebody wants to make a David Lynch Disney commercial. And I just let it kind of play out, because it ain't going to happen. Disney's not the leader in theme parks by accident. They know what their target is. So anyway, all those committee members are in there. What I do is I play kind of on the sideline, a little bit of a referee. So if they said, yeah, I like Lauren O'Quinn, but I don't buy her as a mom, I chime in, well, don't tell her two daughters that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, and you hear them, oh, Mark said she's actually a mom. Okay, put her back in the yes pile. And so I just don't want anybody to be flagged for a reason that's not real.
Yes.
And, one of the things that we'll do too is like, I can, all of our team will be on the ready on casting networks to look up somebody if we hear them start to kind of give reasons that seem not great or not accurate or not true. We'll find, somebody's photo. It's like, well, there he is, in his whatever athletic look, because they think the guy's too skinny or whatever.
Right.
These are just basic examples, but it's like, well, what about this photo? It's like, all right. So I just feel like, if somebody's saying, I don't buy him as a mom, or buy her as a mom, and the person isn't a mom, if that's the reason they need to kind of cull it down to a smaller thing, I'm not going to say she is if she isn't, but I might say, well, she was really good on, Bloodline when she played a mom. Do you remember? But we're always doing that too. It's like, oh yeah, Lauren, she was on Bloodline, and it's like, wait, what did he say? He said he's on Bloodline. So you kind of have to be careful, because if you start dictating, then they get defensive, and their egos get a little crushed. So it's a real finesse kind of job that we have to do when it comes to commercials. And the thing that surprises people, and this, is they would think, oh, I guess you have the least amount of say on a film. No, in the film, the director will turn to you and say him or him. And we'll go, that one. Or we might say, that guy's going to give you 101 different takes on it. But if you're under the gun that day and you got to get this shot off, that guy, if you liked what he did today, he's going to give it to you 101 way, exactly that way, consistently.
Right.
Or we can just say, that guy's, super nice. Easy to work with, we'll go the extra mile for you.
Yeah, I have to tell actors all the time that, in commercial casting, a casting director can advocate for you, or they can advocate against you if you've given them a reason to. And they can certainly decide if you're seen or not seen by the client at all. But ultimately, the director and the ad agency are the ones who pull the trigger. And so I hear this story a lot, and I want to know if this goes around. I'm sure you do. Actors write their own stories as humans, but we face so much rejection that I think we often we have to write a story, a reason about it, because we never hear the real reasons for the rejection. Right. And so I can't tell you how many times over the years I have heard a version of, well, Mark Mullen hates me. Really? Why does Mark Mullen hate you? Oh, he never books me for any of his commercials. He just never does. And then there's always this moment, as I say to them, that's not true. That Mark is not actually the one who decides who books his commercials. Right. He just decides if you're seen or not. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. And so it's this mind-blowing thing for them. Do you realize how often that they tell themselves that story?
Well, yeah, because I know also certain agents tell them bullshit stories too.
Yeah.
Because they'll come back and say, my agent told me that they just weren't looking for anybody my height. And I'll tell them, it's like, no, that's not true.
That's not.
And I'll say, here's who it went to. And you're a little different than that person. So I think they went with a slightly different type. And I think you did a great job. And had they wanted to go that way, or, the combination, the kid they matched you up with and the husband they matched you up with, it fit better for her. And they'll almost always go, yeah, you know what? I see it. I wouldn't have been the best choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so funny to watch people. I so many times I'm like, Mark Mullen hates you. Do you know Mark? Yeah, right. I know Mark. And there's only like 2 people I could count in the whole entire world that I would even think that he even spends any time thinking about to dislike. Otherwise, I promise you're not on his list. You'd know.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, a lot of times people maybe new to the industry as actors, maybe they've been out there still believing this, but there's a lot of those kind of cheesy movies where they're using the trope of the casting director who yells, don't quit your day job. Mm-hmm. Even the casting scene in La La Land, mm-hmm. I've never encountered anything like that. When she's just being seen as an invisible person. I know it exists.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've seen that exactly, but it's been close. But it's not the casting director that's ever treated me that way.
No.
It's sometimes the client, yes. Or the director.
I would go so far as to say a good casting director is an advocate for the talent.
100%. Yes.
But I know there are casting directors who, I guess they wanted to be actors and it didn't happen for them or whatever, and there's a bitterness. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I dare you to be good. And if you are, it was a fluke. And it's like, you should change jobs at that point. Because my experience, what I tell people all the time is the nicest casting directors I've ever worked with are from LA. They're the LA feature film casting directors that are making $1 million a year. What's mm-hmm. not to be happy about? And they really are, and they're caring and they're giving. And every time I thought, oh, this actor's going to leave the room and this is where it's going to get really nasty and they're going to, never. It's more often like, hey, Mark, do you think that maybe if we had him back, they seemed a little nervous. Do you think that it would be, yeah, let's see if we can get him back in on Wednesday to take another shot at it. And it might even be like they're not prepared, not like, how dare they not be prepared? I won't see them ever again. They blew it. No, he seemed like he wasn't prepared. If we give him some more time, there's something there. And that's how a casting director is when they're good, I think.
Yeah, that's great. So last question. On a personal note, if you were in a parallel universe and you were not a casting director, what job would you do?
I would. I'd probably own like a bike shop, and I'd have like a little espresso coffee station there, and try to make it, and like have the riding club that rides out of there in the afternoons and the mornings, and just have it a hangout place. And yes. I would just wrench around with some bikes and build some stuff. I would probably build some stuff.
Wait, like motorized bikes or like
bicycles? Like road bikes, where you go out on the big road ride. I also like Vespas. So I like the aesthetic of things that are built that are kind of specifically for some purpose, and that there's artisans almost that kind of make things that are just special. And I always wanted to know what would feel like, to be able to like learn how to like work on a Vespa and just take it all apart and put it back together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that would be probably the lottery job after I win the lottery.
A lot of people don't know this about you, that you actually really have a great art aesthetic. I mean, you come from a graphic design background, right?
I come from a lot of backgrounds, but yeah. I mean, I've done publishing, I've done graphic design. There's things in Orlando that I design that I still laugh at when I get back there and I see like, oh, I did that logo, or I did that, real estate companies, whatever. But yeah, that was just one of many iterations. I jack of all trades, master of none. I don't know that, but I will say that casting was the one that kind of took me by surprise, because I really thought I would always be hopping around to different jobs. Mm-hmm. And then the casting thing came along, and I was even originally just doing it temporarily to help my wife at the time. I had no intention on staying in, because I started an extras casting, which is brutal. But then when you get into the principal stuff, it's like, wait, did they just ask me what I think? you know? And so it's like, well, that's not bad, you know? So here it is 20 some odd years later, I'm still doing it. So knock on wood, but I didn't think I would ever find a full-time career. I worked in the arts and it doesn't pay, you know, and I love doing film festival and independent film cinema stuff. I used to book that and do interviews and bring in guest speakers. And that was so cool. But I mean, it just didn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
So, lo and behold, casting was the other dumb luck thing. Is the casting is the one thing where I don't like going to the set. I just, it's not my thing. But casting, I never have to, and I can do more than one job at a time. That's the other thing. I could work, you know, on a set and be locked into that project. And like I said earlier, if it's just some bad mojo on that set, you're stuck with it. And things rot from the head down. So if you have an egomaniacal, you know, producer, it's everybody's miserable.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the commercial though, they can be that way, but they're gone in 3 days, you know?
Yeah. And you and I have had some serious laughs in the casting room before. Yeah. I mean, some great times over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be really stressful at times though, too, working under that deadline. Do you remember when I first started working with you back in like 2005, we would tape and then we would have to transfer that tape onto a DVD and we would have to burn the DVD before that damn 7:30 deadline or whatever for FedEx.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everything was physical. So you had to physically have the number of copies that had to go to the director, the production company, the ad agency, and you had multiples. And so, you know, during the course of the audition, you're constantly looking at your watch to see, okay, I got to pull the plug on this, and I got to put these, I got to dub, and then I got to put together 3 copies of the headshots and put them in spirals, and then shove those in a FedEx box. And I can't count how many times I drove 100 miles per hour to the airport. One time they were moving a jumbo jet across the road, and luckily at that time, I haven't had one since, but I had an SUV, and I went off road to get to the FedEx, and I reached it just as a guy was putting the key in the door to lock it. There are so many close calls like that, and that doesn't happen anymore. So it's a luxury now to know that the deadline is an artificial one. If anything, I can still pop somebody on there from a self-taping, you know, at 6 a.m. before I know they're going to come into the office and hit the link. And she's on there at that point.
It's changed so much. I mean, so quickly too.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Okay, and last thoughts. Do you have any actor pet peeves? Something that the actors should hear? Like, just don't do this. Don't do this.
Actually wrote some down, believe it.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
Okay, so let me see what my little cue was. Not being prepared, although 0.1% can do that, meaning winging it. And that, to me, that, like, the guy that can wing it, you know, is the person who's just been a living pirate his whole life. You know, he's just been everywhere.
Living pirate.
And he can do a million things. He can fix your car. He can tile your roof. He can do all. Yeah. And that kind of guy, you know, it's the guy you meet in a bar, and it's a one guy in one bar in one city, you know. Right. So it's so rare I don't recommend it. But that kind of person can almost wing it on charm. But it's just not reading the breakdown. I tell people, you know, I'm on this phone conversation with all these people from all over the place, and I'm just writing every note down, and I distill it into the tightest, most succinct breakdown. And then I send out all the, you know, information. Here are your sides. You know, here's what you need to do. Here's a little essence about, you know, this person. Here's kind of what they are. And people still come in. It's like, hey, my agent didn't say there were lines. My agent didn't, you know, what's this for? And it's like, you should just quit now. You should quit now.
Just get out.
Belong here, because you don't have the charm that pirate has, and you're trying to act like I should really care and stop everything to educate you on what you're here to do. So that is crazy, because, and you know this, you know, every actor should sit in a casting session and watch what it looks like to come in unprepared when you're sandwiched in between 2 people that are prepared. The sad thing is, it's probably only about 5% of a day's audition that you find the 5% are prepared, and the rest are kind of half-assing it. But when you see what prepared looks like, you'd be mortified to show up and wing it the next time.
Yeah.
But they live in a bubble. So the actors only have this little window, and they go home and they go, I think I did pretty good. yeah, you did pretty good, but you didn't see what came in after, or you didn't see who came in at 4 p.m. that
Right.
just made you invisible to
Right.
the director.
Do you remember us telling somebody one time in a casting, I think it was for Tooth Fairy, and this guy, he stopped and started multiple times, and he kept apologizing and making excuses, and he was auditioning for a supporting lead, a big role.
Yeah.
And then finally we were like, okay, well, it just doesn't seem like it's going to work out. And because it was painful, and he'd been in the room for a long time. And then he's like, no, it's just, you guys make me nervous. And, but I can do this. And you and I both looked at each other. We're like, dude, if we make you nervous, how are you going to be on set?
And I don't subscribe to what I know. Some casting directors, it's like, well, if you can't get through me, I can't deliver you to my director. I think the best of a director, and assume that the director has worked with talent and knows how to do that. So I'm not there to be your speed bump. I'm just there to actually work with you and see what we can have happen. And then in callback, if you don't unravel, then the presumption is you'll get to set, and after a few takes, we'll get a shot. It's not always the case, though. We hear those stories all the time, but that's on you. And that's on the director who hired you, because they met you and they know what they're getting. So yeah, that would be my pet peeve. And the other one that ties into that is like, I don't really need to hear your excuses. A lighting guy, when the light blows out, doesn't stop and say, I'm sorry, Mr. Scorsese, it blew out. Is it okay if we stop, and can I get a bulb? Because I'll go up and shut up, just do it. And I tell people that all the time. It's like, you're a professional, you're getting paid for this, so act like it. And apologies are just lame. That makes me go to the next store if I'm getting my car worked on and they're apologizing for not, being sure if they can get it right, or they really thought they had it. It's like, I'm not coming back. Bye.
Yeah.
So yeah. Another pet peeve, what I say, I can sell you, but I wrote this down. I can sell you, but not if you don't have your shit together. So it's like, it kills me when it's like, oh, let me get this guy. Let me get another photo of him. You'll see. And I go to the casting networks, or I go to, Actors, Access or whatever. And it's like, my God, this guy doesn't have any pictures. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. It's like, why doesn't, he's been in 5 films that I know of, or 5 TV series. He doesn't have a reel anyway. Let me Google. I don't think he has a damn reel. Mm-hmm. Hey, agent, does so-and-so have a, no, I've been telling him to get it together. I can't sell you.
Right.
If you don't have your shit. It's like, I know this guy has a great resume. Oh, he doesn't have it listed.
That's what I call the basic toolkit, the Actors Toolkit. If you don't have your tools in your toolkit, how the hell are you going to do the job? Yeah.
Right. Watch your peer. Oh, this is the other thing. Trust the guy. Oh, this one says, trust the guy with the answers, you fucktard. That was just me. But I have some answers for you. Okay. I spent 2 hours on a big meeting yesterday. I wrote all this down. I shared it with you in the breakdown. Apparently you didn't read it. But I'm not your enemy. Mm-hmm. And I got a quick story about that. One time on a job, we had a woman who was hired, and the dates changed, and she became suddenly unavailable. They were willing to throw Fort Knox at her, but it was her grandmother's birthday in Puerto Rico. The woman was never going to not go. The grandma was 95 years old, and it was a big milestone or whatever. So I said, I think I know the person. The person had the look, had some of the feel of this. So I said to the person, there's only 2 looks in this commercial. You probably know this story. There's only 2 looks in this commercial. It's either the little black dress out by the South Beach pool, or it's rolled up jeans with a guy's Oxford shirt on, barefoot walking through the surf. Mm-hmm. Just do one of those. The person showed up in an orange taffeta Marilyn Monroe, diamonds are a girl's best best whatever. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Yeah. And makeup.
Prom dress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. And it was taffeta, and it was orange, and it made noise. And she wore makeup like she was going to go on a drag show. And it's like, I can't fix stupid. Oh, it's like, you really think I was setting you up for a fall? No, I just think I look better in this color. Okay. They looked at it and said,
and you don't need me.
Yeah. And I didn't say she didn't do what I asked, but here it is. I just said, here it is. And they were like, nope. Mm-hmm. And she had it, and it was a SAG National, but what are you going to do? And then the other thing I would say is, and this one's a little harsher. I mean, my version of harsh is not that harsh, but watch more films. Yeah. Watch inside the actor studio. Be familiar. I should not say, because casting directors can use adjectives. I can say play it angry, or I can say play it angry like Al Pacino when he killed that cop in the scene in Godfather when they were in the Italian restaurant. And I can't tell you how many people I've been meaning to watch that. Well, you're an actor. Go watch it, because and this is my comparison. It's like if you're a musician and you're in a studio and someone says, play that guitar riff, like, so give me a Keith Richards. Okay, that's good. No, give me a little more of a Tom Petty jangle sound. Mm-hmm. And when you sing it a little. And, these people, can you imagine a musician going, I've been meaning to listen to Keith Richards. I've been meaning to check out Tom Petty. Everyone's talking about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take much. And now more than ever, you're holed up in your homes. Don't go watch Instant Family. I did some casting on that. It's not a bad movie, but go watch The Godfather if you haven't seen it.
Go watch the classics.
Yeah, go to the AFI, American Film Institute, and look at their top 100 list, top 100 horror films, top 100 drama, crime. Look at an actor that you've heard a lot about. People think wrongly that Marlon Brando mumbles and is just good for New York street or, Louisiana. He's, Stella is all he can yell. Go watch him in Julius Caesar going head to head with Sir Laurence Olivier and sounding more regal than a British theater actor.
Right.
Picasso didn't just draw stick horses. He can also paint a masterpiece like Rembrandt. Mm-hmm. So it's like, learn your peers, find out what they're doing, because you're now an actor just like Al Pacino or just like Marlon Brando.
Yeah. And emulate success. Yeah. Study the greats.
A movie I tell people, and now you have plenty of time, it's a long movie, but go watch Giant, because that was the debut of James Dean. And when you see James Dean acting alongside Rock Hudson and Elizabeth Taylor, you see the new way of acting, which still holds today, against the old Hollywood system of lots of big eyebrows and lots of, it's a presentation. Yeah, and his mere appearance opposite those people glaringly reveals and exposes their acting as really phony. And so it's just an interesting thing to see, like, this is when acting changed in America, film acting. And it was really with James Dean and Marlon Brando. And there's others, but just watch that one, because that's the one where it's really crazy to see how different it is. Anyway.
I love that actors are getting to see this side of you, because you are such a film buff, which a lot of people don't realize. Yeah. And especially an indie film buff. I mean, your background, you came from working for the Orlando Film Festival.
For the Florida Film Festival.
Florida Film Festival in Orlando.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was programming director for the theater, for the film festival, and managing director of the theater. So I worked there all the time, watched 1,000,001 screeners as we were trying to figure out what we were going to show on the screen, and then watched hundreds and hundreds and thousands of indie films being submitted. And it was the same heartbreak that I sometimes see when an actor comes in and has the opportunity to be in land a good role if they really can nail this audition, and they come in unprepared. And I can't tell you how many films that we popped in to watch, and it's like, there's a note like, hey, I mortgaged my home and my mother-in-law's home to make this film. And it's like, this person never saw a film in his life, doesn't know what he's doing, and God bless him, he just sent us 2 hours of just horrible crap. And you want to give him some consolation prize, but there's nothing to say. It's like, you're not prepared. You didn't do your homework.
Yeah, you can't fix unprepared.
No, you can't. And the homework in this business is fun.
Right.
Watch a movie or watch a TV show or go check out an actor. And if you don't have time, go check out some scenes on YouTube. Just look like what made Montgomery Clift somebody that people mention. Just type in Montgomery Clift, and there's going to be scene upon scene upon scene. And then when somebody uses the shorthand, instead of looking scared, look angry like Montgomery Clift and, whatever. I'm going blank. But yeah, there's 1,000,001 samples out there. And I like Inside the Actors Studio too, because the actors will tell their process. Yeah. And I can remember, and I've repeated this in workshops, but like Anthony Hopkins, he'll read the script 100 times. And I've heard on set too, he'll run the scene and not give you anything. And then when the scene is for real and the camera's rolling, you are blown away.
Right.
You're
Right.
shocked into your own role. You know, the
Right.
moment is so real. And you know, Martin Sheen is like said, he'll look at an actor doing work and he'll imagine what would Marlon Brando have done if he were playing the role I'm playing, and he'll kind of like, you know, adapt some of his choices that he imagines he might make when he's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Sutherland said that if he can start the film, especially if he has to do an accent, if we could start shooting not at the beginning or the end, because the suspension of disbelief in the middle is you're there, your audience is one. But if you start the beginning of the film or even the end, you know, you're left with that memory of like, oh, he came on the screen and he was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
or the movie was great until the end, and it's like suddenly his accent was gone. I don't know what happened, but you won't really notice it in the middle. So I mean, it's just those little tricks while an actor's trying to find his way through. Don't do it when I'm finding my way through. Don't shoot the beginning of the movie, or the audience is not going to go with us on this journey.
Yeah, that's a great tip, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Mark, you look like an LA hippie, but you're really smart.
No, I'm not. I just pretend to be. This was all written for me by my kids. Oh,
Was it? Sorry, yeah, home recording. Lexi is obviously asking to go out. Can you hold, please? So good. It was so good to see you, and so glad to hear from you and the actors. You've got so much great information for them, and yeah, we got to bring you back to Orlando soon and do some more workshops. You're gonna be here soon, right? You were here in January and did workshops.
yeah. And I was going to come back in May, but I don't think I'm coming back in May now. It was like the beginning of May. I think you know, who knows.
Maybe you could offer some virtual workshops, because actors need to be prepared because don't you anticipate a big boom in production once we resume things?
I do, because it's part of the economy. It's you know, people, especially commercials, but it's not just commercials. It's network, it's Netflix. You know, they have to keep producing content. So
Right.
this is what keeps the wheels you know, moving through the system. So yeah, I anticipate that we're going to be blown away when it's safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When
And
it's
I think we may even end the year where we thought we were going to be all along, and we're just going to have to kill ourselves at the end.
right.
So
Right.
this would be the time as an actor to, you know, polish your craft, get it, you know, get set, go watch some films, go take some courses, you know. But yeah, you know, maybe we should talk about that, doing a workshop. So.
Yeah, that'd be great to do one, because one of the things that's funny, Chris and I have been talking for years about offering more online learning tools for actors, but I never have the time normally, you know?
Right.
And so this is the gift that we got out of this, is time to develop some of the things that maybe we've always talked about doing, or improve the skill sets that we know that we have, but we need to make sure that we're honing, and also to organize my closets. So, you know, all those things.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, right before, one of the last jobs I had out here in LA was for Spectrum, and the clients got, you know, cold feet, and nobody blames them, about getting on a plane and getting stuck here. And so we did the entire callback, and it's, you know, it's not that rare to do the callback via, I think we use Zoom as well, or I think we use Zoom. Anyway, there's so many now. They're all so good. But
I know.
yeah, we did it, and it was so simple and so easy, and I think it's just going to become more of the norm. And I would imagine, too, especially with commercials, it's like, you know, we're trying to make up for lost money, so we're not putting all you guys on a plane when we can do it from the office, or you can do it from home. They can stay right. You and I are at home,
right,
doing this. So I think we're going to see more of that, and who knows? Maybe it gets facilitated where I'm the facilitator, and it's like, okay, next up is Lauren O'Quinn. Hold, please. Lauren, they're all there. Are you ready to go live? I'm ready. Okay, good luck. Click. And it's like, hey, Lauren, this is Steve. He's the director, and this is Susan, and she's the producer. And I think it may even become that, where what we're doing right now may be more of what we're doing even in the future when this is all over.
I agree, because whatever, we may make some discoveries about more efficient ways to work, or things that we don't need anymore, and things that now that will be the new normal, you know.
And it's funny too, when you think about it, you know, all of our clients, and, you know, I'm this way and you're this way, our kids are all this way. We're so accustomed to looking at a screen. Sure. And I almost feel like sometimes you might get better attention from somebody watching you on a Zoom or Skype or whatever screen. I mean, this is where it's going to end up being anyway.
Right.
All the stuff we do ends up on a screen. So
Right.
coming in person, it's funny. I often watch the clients, here's 7 or 8 people that flew in. They're staying, at whatever, the Raleigh and South Beach. And they're sitting in this callback and all they're doing is looking at the flat screen TV I rolled in. They're not even looking at the actors in the room.
It's like, we
Why
could have
are
done
they
this
here?
virtually. Right.
Why are they here? So I think a lot of that's going to change, and I do think initially maybe it will be a cost thing.
Yeah, it may be.
Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for all you do for the actors. Thanks for taking your time and hanging out with us and everything. We appreciate everything that you have to say.
Thank you. I wish I wasn't so introverted and had something to say.
I know. I've always had such a hard time getting you to talk about, what you know. But it's actually one of my favorite things about you. You don't keep all that information to yourself. You share.
Oh, good. Well, if you ever want to do a part 2, I've got a whole list of things I didn't talk about.
Oh, cool. Actually, yeah. We'll keep recording. We can edit this into a part 2.
You want to?
Yeah, sure.